Welcome to the episode of the Story of Crime Tech. I hope the whole family is well. Now let's come to today's story. There are numerous frightening stories. There are a lot of meaningless stories. Numerous tales have no place in the legal system. However, because to the current situation, the law must accept things that are invisible to them. However, those matters that somehow progress on the basis of proof and eyewitness accounts. If someone fabricates such testimony, and such evidence, then the person who does not exist is likewise believed by the law. This is the only murder case in American police history in which none of the detectives or officers at the time wanted to accept that a spirit or a soul had actually solved the crime. Although the law does not accept these actions, it is true that the police did. They were unsuccessful in this situation and received no guidance. But how on earth someone managed to solve this case? This is how the whole tale goes. Teresita Basa, a young woman from the Philippines. She was raised well and completed her education there. She then made the decision to pursue higher education in America. Teresita Basa's parents agreed with her choice in this matter. She traveled directly to Chicago from the Philippines. She obtained her music master's degree after traveling to Chicago. She enjoyed listening to and playing the piano. She pursued a master's in music. But she soon realized that the music was insufficient. She then started studying medicine. And she finished her training to become a respiratory therapist. She then joined a hospital. During this period, she remained single. Despite having a boyfriend, she chose not to get married. The tale takes place in 1977, which is nearly 44 years ago. She had just turned 47 at the time. She was a therapist employed by a hospital and was single. She taught piano to the kids that lived in her apartment. Despite being a good girl, she didn't have many friends. However, everything was going nicely. On 21 February 1977, Teresita phones Ruth Loyap, a friend, at 7:30 o'clock. Ruth is one of her close friends, and they speak frequently. Teresita notifies her buddy that a visitor will be arriving after about 15 to 20 minutes of conversation. She claims that she has essential work to complete. Ruth hangs up without asking her who is coming. Teresita spoke to no one else after this. After this, at around 8:30 in the evening, smoke began to emanate from Teresita's flat in the building where she resided. When a neighbor and security guard saw smoke coming from the building, they called the fire department. The fire brigade members arrived promptly. They entered the house where the fire was taking place. They controlled the fire. They put out the fire before going inside to check on the residents. A carpet is in the drawing room. They would put out the fire, even if it was coming out of the carpet. However, there was carpet there. They then unrolled the carpet. A girl was found with half of her body charred inside the carpet. She had nothing on her body. She was also struck in the chest with a dagger. As a result, it was immediately clear that the case involved murder. The police then arrived. They saw that after performing their initial investigation, the police came to the conclusion that a murder may have been committed prior to the murder she was naked, which means that rape may have taken place, and the killer destroyed every evidence. The deceased's body was lit up and covered with carpet. From the carpet, the smoke emerged and filled the space with light. The body was taken by police. Teresita Basa was recognized as the deceased. Teresita had passed away. A post-mortem was performed. The body was not dressed, but neither was it raped, according to the post-mortem report. The merchandise was also dispersed throughout the house. The house had the impression of being filled with loot. The police believed that Teresita's neighbors had come over to check what was going on. They inquired about their pals, but they didn't uncover any hints. In the meantime, Teresita's home was where the police discovered a letter, and that letter had it written on. Of Australia, and as for Sydney, this is a letter, then nothing further can be found, and no proof can be gathered. there was no rape, but because the things were dispersed throughout the house, it appeared to be a robbery. However, this letter requests that as purchase a theater ticket, in other words, as requires you to purchase a theater ticket. Who is Mr. As then? Was the current query. The neighbors and all of the friends were questioned by the police. They questioned the nurses, doctors, and kids who took piano lessons at the hospital. Nobody had the name Lay, Sine, are two names connected to A. No hints were discovered by the police. The detectives continued their work. Days turned into a week, and a week became a month. But no hints were discovered. Additionally, no evidence linking the murder to the crime was discovered. The investigator assigned to the inquiry at the time was Joe Estachuela, and it had been approaching a year. So one evening, Mr. Joe Estachuela shows up at his workplace. He finds a message on his desk when he enters his office. They have a witness in the Teresita case. It said in that note, "Please get in touch with them if they have anything to tell." The detective reads this note right away and heads to the police station. He inquires as to what transpired and what kind of witness finally came forward. A doctor visited then. The policeman informs that Dr. Joe Sechua was the man's name. He was also a Philippine native, but he was a doctor and employed at a hospital. He then arrived and announced that he was there to share some information on Tesitas. Now, the police station advised them to meet Dr. Jose since the investigators were looking into this case. The investigators visit Dr. Jose and request information from him about their findings. They share a tale with the detective. He claims that he was a hospital employee. Teresita doesn't know him, but over the past 2 days, his wife Remy has been acting suspiciously. She is dozing off. She has a different voice at night when she speaks, and he has the impression that this has never occurred before. The past few days have seen this happening. So he worked as a doctor and a medical professional. He does not give these things much thought. Remy was napping one day when he noticed she was speaking loudly. She didn't have his wife's voice. It was a different voice. She suddenly started talking to him about his name. She said that she wanted to say something to him. The detective understood a little bit. He asked what your wife said. She said that his wife was someone else's wife. She suddenly said that he was murdered, and the person who killed him was named Alan Shorey. Then he remembered that the name Alan Shorey once visited his home to repair the TV. While mending the TV, he also struck and completely destroyed the house. He so assumed that was a robbery and departed. After hearing this, he forgot it was a delusion when he woke up in the next morning. Even in his dream, his wife is experiencing a lot of unusual things. He didn't believe it to be real, though. Then why did you come see me the day after the murder? She claimed that Alan Shorey had set the house on fire to destroy any potential evidence. Let the detective and the police investigate. He told her that he wanted justice to be served and for killer to be made to answer for his crimes. But the next day, he believed it to be a mere illusion. Remy, his wife, started babbling all of a sudden the following night. She became enraged this time. She was yelling at him and accusing him of acting improperly. Yesterday, he requested her assistance. His wife will be forced to bear the repercussions if he don't help them. The doctor claimed that he spoke to him for the first time when he inquired about identity and needs. He claimed that he had been told he had been murdered. Alan Shorey was my assassin. Criminal had visited the victim's home to repair the TV about 8:30 p.m. on February 21st, the time. He lit a fire in victim's house. He asserted that if he told the police tale, they wouldn't believe him. There must be some evidence, then only he can talk to them. Hans said, all right, he'll show the proof. Yes, that's okay, he said. He asserted that Alan Shorey stole some jewelry from his house and brought it outside with him after the victim was dead. Later, he gave the jewelry to his girlfriend, and his partner is wearing this jewelry right now. It is in. If you will go there. We'll get it. The second as well. Now, how will it prove if that jewelry belongs to him or not? He told that he was going to give some names and numbers. It can be investigated by his family and friends who are familiar with victim, and they will know that this jewelry belongs to whom. However, his killer's lover currently possesses it. She has also included the doctor's name and phone number. In the midst of this, the doctor responded, "Okay, he will go and added, help him or your wife will pay for it." Then he got in touch with the local police, who informed that he was standing in front of them. They reacted angrily after hearing the police. What a fool. But later, he thought that he should acquire some information regarding a case that hasn't yet been resolved. He therefore discovered 2 or 3 hints here. The first was that the house was written with the letters A and S. What then was Mr. A.S.'s mystery? Now the name of the doctor who is speaking. The doctor's wife is revealing Alan Shorey's name as the guy who committed the terrorist act and the terrorist's soul. For Shorey and A for Alan. So the A&S problem has been resolved. Second, they learned whether there was a TV issue in that unit. Has someone arrived to repair the TV? Because he killed him after claiming that he had come to address the problem. Thus, we learned that yes, at the time, sective cameras and everything else did not exist, that the test's TV was malfunctioning. He came the following day to fix the TV, and it was fixed. Is this something else at this point or not? He came to mend the TV because he was correct that it was broken. The police stood up after discovering these 2 items and said that what they were doing was right. The killer took my jewelry with him and gave it to his lover, which is the third and most significant factor. When Teresita's co-worker Alan Shorey was discovered, the authorities learned that Teresita shared a hospital with him. He didn't tell Todd why he came. He merely queried whether he had a girlfriend. Yes, he replied. He inquired as to her residence. He provided the address to us. The police went to the residence of his girlfriend. If she had given them jewelry or a present, they questioned her. The girlfriend agreed after being stunned. She claimed to have given them a present. The policeman promised to demonstrate for them. The police weren't sure if it was brand new or if it actually came from Teresita. The police contacted 2 or 3 of Teresita's contacts, including a friend and a family member. They have the jewels in front of them. Teresita is the true owner. They all concur. The cops were now without a way to question them. They quickly took Alan Shorey into custody. They then explained how he accomplished it to Alan Shorey. However, they naturally arrested Alan Shorey in this location. However, a soul is testifying about Teresita, and she is stating all of these things through the wife of a doctor. The testimony of the soul is not accepted in law. Alan Shorey claimed that he had come to fix a TV, that the jewelry belonged to his wife, and that the name as Alan Shorey was accurate. However, the lawyer for Alan Shorey raised the objection that while the jewelry was stolen, the terrorist was still alive when it was done, and that he left his apartment while the terrorist was still alive. Thus, you can hold him accountable for the theft, but not the murder. Since there were no eyewitnesses present at the time of the murder, the police are now without any supporting evidence. They were unable to hold him for very long. They needed to let him go. The police then had 3 to 4 items, but no reliable evidence. The doctor's wife was one day possessed by the ghost of Teresita after they freed him, and he told her how he killed me on the night of February 21. He rescued me from the TV and other distractions. What can I do? Though the doctor claimed that he helped me, he was apprehended, but how did he obtain the proof? Additionally, you said that a dead soul does not follow the law. According to legend, the terrorist spirit became extremely enraged, and as a result, those involved in the case began to harass them and demand that justice be served. The police team resumed operations as soon as this happened. After then, the law initially believed that a ghost was providing all of this information, but he proceeded to mend the TV since he also thought stealing was okay. from his girlfriend's place. He obtained the jewelry. How therefore can the murder be disregarded? The police then detained Alan Shurey once more after accusing him of the crime. Then the case began. The case was now in progress, and it was distinct since it was built entirely on the testimony of a ghost who was passing herself off as a doctor's wife. So there was no proof. The trial began, sparking intense discussion and coverage in all American publications at the time. In the end, the jury members' weight was also increased. They claimed that everything else is great, that the doctor's wife's spirit is there, and that we shouldn't believe in the law because we found jewelry on her mark, and learned that the TV was damaged before it was restored, among other things. However, there is insufficient proof to identify the murderer. Thus, the jury's opinion changed as a result. Alan Shurey was also changed for the trial. It was occupied. The story was not over yet. Once it had been filled, Teresita Basa, according to him, refused to acknowledge his guilt in court. He claimed he didn't murder anyone or steal jewelry. There was no proof. He wasn't a witness, though. He passed away. The test, but it is said that when he was to be released, a few hours before, suddenly Alan Shurey changed his mind. He called the detective and the lawyers of the law, and he confessed in front of them. He said that he was lying. He said that he had killed the terrorist, Basa. He told the story that on 21st February 1977, he went home at 8:30. He told that they used to meet in the hospital in Teresita. Whenever there was a broken electronic gadget in his house, she used to call him. He used to go to her house and fix it. They used to have coffee or something like that. Even on that day, she told him that her TV was broken. Then he said, okay, he will fix it. She called him at 8:30. He went and fixed the TV. He then said that his intentions were destroyed. He required cash. And he was aware that he may have had cash and valuables. However, there was no money at home. He said that I had seen the jewelry once again despite having taken it. Teresita also stole while grabbing his hand. He believed it would be shameful, therefore thrust the dagger into her chest, after pressing his fist into her neck in rage. When he realized it was a rape case, I stripped off everything and wrapped it in a carpet to hide all the evidence, then departed. Alan Shurey suddenly admitted all of this throughout the trial when it was retrialed, because he had confessed his crime and he was a changed man. The same jury's verdict in the retrial resulted in Alan Shurey receiving a 20-year prison term for killing Teresita Basa. He spends the next 20 years behind bars. A new tale is supposed to have emerged after this. He initially refused, but it is stated that Teresita Basa's soul was then imprisoned as a result. She and he then warned that if you don't accept it, you'll have to deal with the repercussion. He admitted his guilt and stated the truth as a result of this. Later, the police detective conducted numerous interviews. He publicly stated that we do not think of souls as ghosts, but in this instance, we can formally claim that a ghost or a soul assisted us in solving the case because everything that we needed to know came to us via a soul. Voice from the Grave was the moniker given to this case at the time by the Chicago police, specifically the dead person's voice. On this, a movie was made. Voice from the Grave was also its name, and this movie came out in 1996. In this unusual tale, a case that no one could see was solved by a soul. However, the matter was finally handled, and the offender also acknowledged his wrongdoing. That concludes the story for today. Till then, take care of yourself. Thank you very much.